Welcome everyone to the On Passive Kenya weekly webinar held every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We are very, very glad that you are here with us today. Today's topic is testing the final rollout. And this topic has been suggested to us by our very own CEO, Ash Mufara. So we hope that you will gain knowledge from this topic today. It is a very important one. And today we are going to begin with our OTech pros who are going to be speaking on this topic. The first speaker we have today is Collins, and he is going to give an overview of testing and the testing process. Take it away, Collins.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to greet all the panelists. We appreciate you, and also the attendees and those who are also watching online. So as Lynn have just said, we will be talking about testing and data migration. So it's a topic that has been chosen by our CEO, Mr. Ash Mufara. The reason why he chose this topic is because sometimes there are questions that most of the founders ask, not because just because they have little understanding of how technology works. There is no way you can put out a piece of functions out there without testing properly. We already know the effect, what will happen. It is devastating, it is costly, and sometimes lawsuit will even follow the company. There's lots of jobs, lot of crazy things that will happen, if you don't really test your software properly. It's just easy because as our brother Bob said, you just have one bullet, just one shot. And when you shoot it, you miss, that's it, you're gone, and there's no way. But when you get the target, you are there forever. And we are here just to explain that particular thing. We've been hearing our CEO talk about testing, migration. So he said, go and explain. It's just a tiny thing, but it's massive, really massive. So we've talked about it last night, today morning, I think OTech Pro, and we want to explain why testing, what is the meaning of testing? Testing is about verifying to ensure that the software that you build meet and exceed customer expectation. So if your software does not meet customer expectation, nobody will buy it. It's like you have something and your competitor also have it. What is there in yours that will make the other customer come? Because we're talking about customer loyalty. There are a lot of products out there, but what is in your product that will make someone who is a loyal customer to another company for almost 10, 15 years to live where they are, come to you? That is the thing that we are talking. And when you want to test, you look at all of those things out of the box. What is in your own product that makes someone to come? So you have to test to make sure what you are building meet and exceed, not only meet, but exceed customer expectation. Because customers want to get more for less. They want to get a lot for nothing. And if you don't give them that thing, they will never come. Something that they will go back and say, wow, this product is crazy. So we'll look at testing. I'll share my screen and let's go through the process, just a little bit high level. Don't worry if you don't get it, but it's just to give you a basic understanding of what is happening behind the scene in testing. So let me just share my screen. So we have the first bit is testing and data migration. Why testing? Why do we test? Why should we test a product? So we look at it. We said, why should we test? One, you want to gain customer confidence. You need to build your customer confidence by testing. Once you test and you agree, wow, this thing is really good. This particular product you have, be it or mail, we have a lot of products behind. Remember when we saw our old founder, all of us were like crying. We love it. Old founder build our confidence because we know, wow, this is really great. This is something that we can love. There's nobody in OnPassive who doesn't love the old founder screen. When we move from old founder to go from old founder to old founder, now we need to check the software adaptability. How is the software adaptable to different environment? Because remember, people will be buying our software, moving like old staff, as Bob talked about old staff, a lot of company will come. They will buy it and then try to integrate it with other software, other applications that they have in-house. How is it adaptable to that environment? How can you configure it? How can you integrate it to something that is out of OnPassive? So you need to check all of that to make sure we have it. You can use it conveniently, and smoothly as possible. to identify errors. That's one of the things. You need to test to identify errors because you know error is costly. You identify it quickly and you fix it, you resolve it. To avoid extra costs, we know the cost. Maddie talk about that, and we will listen to the cost again. Bob will talk about it. Oliver talk about it. No, it's just so costly if you miss it. You know, there are loss of lives, a lot of things, not only cost financially, people lost their job and even loss of life. I think Maddie will give a lot of examples about the cost. You know, to accelerate software development, you know, the more you find the error, they fix it, it moves again because the programmers and the developers can build and build on new functionality. But if you don't test it, what happens? It delays the progress, you know, to avoid risks that can happen, anything can happen, and the company will shut down and then optimize businesses. What happened? You have revenue will go up. The more you test, you get more revenue because people love it, they'll come in. That's the reason why we test, to do all of these things, you know. And then type of testing, we'll talk these are the main category, functional and non-functional testing. So you test based on the function that they have built. For instance, that you look at the login screen when you want to go to your email. That is the login screen. You go in, you test, enter, you know, the password field, the username field, the password field, you know, you can either click or cancel, okay or cancel, all of those things, all of those little buttons, they are all functionality, reset password, all of those in their functions. So you want to verify, you want to test that function. That is what is called functional testing. Now, non-functional testing is the testing that are not related to the function, but it comes, again, it's so important, very, very important, because you talk about volume. How many people will come? Because sometimes when we test in-house, we don't think about those volume. We think about 1 or 2 people sitting there, clicking the button and say, wow, this function is great. But have you think about when 1 million people click on that button, what will happen? Will the system crash? That is non-functional part of it. You know, the speed is non-functional part of it. How fast customer can go into that site and get the information that they want and then go do their job easily. That is non-functional part. How easy portability? How can you transfer it from one place to the other? Can you put it on a USB and transfer? That's the portability side. Security, that brother will talk about security. You know, all of those things, they are the things that are not related to the function, but they are so important because if you don't check all of those things, and the moment you put it out, anything happen, your business shut down. You just hear there's no on-passive anymore. And what will happen? All of us founders will cry. Now, so within this particular part again, we have two main categories again in type of testing. You have static and dynamic. Static is about reviewing all those code and look at all of those things, documentation, what, you know, the values that you have to enter. And then dynamic is when the system is running, you know, the system is running and then you have to test. And then within functional testing, you have different types. Unit testing that is conducted by the developers. You know, you have functional testing when they build the system testing, when they build the system and you have to test the system like OMail, you test it. You have system integration when you integrate one OMail to ODEX and all of those are integrations. So you have to test to see if they can work together. You know, you have, you know, when you find an issue, you fix it, you have to retest again. Once you retest, what happens? You have to check other components because the moment you test, for instance, I send an information to Brother Oliver. Just say, bro, me, I'm a software. Brother Bob is a software. Brother Oliver, Brother Vincent, all of us are software. They change something in me. They need to tell Brother Oliver that or Brother Bob that they have changed something because computer don't have sense like human being. They just react based on the information you give them. You have to go and tell Brother Oliver that, oh, Collins is sitting there. When the information comes, Collins now, the name Collins is not Collins again, is Vincent or something. You tell Brother Bob that the information coming is Vincent, not Collins. You have to go and tell them. So when the information comes, they can receive it. Or if you don't tell them, they will reject it or say, we don't know this person like a foreign body. That's how computer behave. You know, everything you do, you have to tell. So for instance, you change something and developer can forget to check, it breaks everything. You have to go and retest. So when you retest, you discover, they call it regression to verify that the software have not moved from when it was working and then failed. Though I have test Collins is working, but I have to test Vincent, I have to test Brother Oliver, test to make sure all the information are working correctly. And then you have to do all of those tests. There are lot we can go. They are just moving part testing, you know, and you have to talk about smoke testing, sanity testing. It's just about checking all the application. Then now let's look at the life cycle of testing. We call this agile software life cycle. That's what we are working, sprint, you know. Now they give you a piece of functions. That's called it the understanding the features. The QA team need to understand the features that are there to be tested. You know, they have to write a test case. What is a test case? A test case is a set of input values. So you input information, for instance, username, password, click, and then expected result. What are you expecting? The system must log you in or should log you into that. When I enter this information, and then there's a precondition, provided that information is in the database, log me in. If the information is not in the database, come with a user-friendly information and said, this information does not exist. Because code doesn't understand that, they'll give you like a crazy error. So you have to tell them that we don't want that crazy code error. Just come with a friendly and on a language that everybody can understand. Give me a user-friendly language. This doesn't exist. And a lot of times we've seen that people go and try to create an account, and then they said, wow, the account doesn't exist. Those are user-friendly information to tell you that go and verify or go and do it again. And then that's test case. Test case is a set of input value and an expected result. And then from there, when you write all of those during that time, and when the software is ready, then you have to use it to test. They call it test execution. You execute all those test cases, means running it now dynamically, testing everything as it is. And then they can release it to the environment if it is good. And if there's any defect, they can fix it and then move it to the next sprint. And we talked about sprint last time, sprint. Now, the same thing here is just the same software development, software test lifecycle, STLC, where you analyze requirement, you write your test plan, you write test case, we already understand what the test case, you prepare your test environment, because there are different test environments. You have the developer environment where they build the code, they do everything, they test, they do their unit testing, they move into test environment where the QA team tests, they move it to another environment which is closer to the live environment. They test, and then they move it now to where we are seeing now in our back office, where we do beta testing, because beta testing is just one of the tests. But what we are saying here is alpha testing. All the tests I'm saying is alpha. Doing in the alpha testing is tests that they do within the company, what the guys in Hyderabad are doing. So when they come out, what we'll do is just beta testing, but they go through all of this process. And why we are doing this, just for us to appreciate those guys who are doing the wonderful job for the company on our behalf. So I'll just leave it there until Lynn, and you take it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was awesome. A great overview. Next, we go to Oliver Fonte, and he's going to talk about the importance of security testing.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Auntie Lynn. Collins, wonderful presentation. Bob, Vincent, Grace, Marcien, CV, and the rest. I can call everybody. I just want to say thank you for being here. And today we're going to talk about security testing. And security testing begins from the first phase, or the planning. The planning of the security testing is from the first phase, which is the planning phase, the analysis that they'll give. We need to start planning and talking about security, how they're going to integrate security in the first phase, to the second phase, to the last phase that they have to roll it out. You have to start from the planning phase. And after they've done that, now we'll ask ourselves, security testing. It's a type of software testing that uncover vulnerability, threat, risk in a software application and prevent malicious attack from intruders. For that phase one, as they are writing down the code, they're preparing the code, the test cases, they have to make sure that security has, the security engineers are also part of the coding to write the code, how they are going to attack or make sure that they cannot attack that particular product as it's starting from phase one. Then the purpose of the security testing is to identify all possible loopholes to make sure that phase one, the security engineers also make sure that there's no loopholes that are blocking everything. After they've passed that sprint, the phase one sprint, that everything has been tested, check, phase one, check, they move now to phase two. You know, then now, why do we perform security testing? And why is it important? Same thing. Security testing is to identify the threat in the system and malicious, potential malicious or vulnerability, so that the threat can be encounter and system does not stop functioning. So now this is still phase one. This is still phase one. All these components, they have to be in phase one to make sure that the security engineers, why the developers are also preparing the code. Now they have to make sure that all these other parts are in there. Come now, why? What type of security testing do we do, and how do we perform this? So when it comes to security, there's always that why, how, and what. These three things: how, why, and what. We have to ask these three things to make sure that the security check and the security testing and the security in every phase of that process. So now we'll go to the how. We've already talked about the why, the what. Now we're talking now about the how. The how now is how are they going to do it? How are they going to perform it from the phase one? We talk about vulnerability testing. Vulnerability scanning, I'm sorry. When they scan, how do they scan? This is done through automated software. There are software that they use like nurses. I don't want to call the names of the tools, but they have to scan that phase one process. When they finish that phase, that phase, they have to make sure they scan it so that it's scanned to make sure there's nothing, all the security checks, all the features that of the security that they've been tested and checked good. Now also comes security scanning again. You know, there's automated scanning. I'll come back to this automated and the security scanning. The security engineers also make sure they run a security check, a security scanning again to make sure that the vulnerability scanning that they did, everything is intact before they can move to the next phase. I'll leave security assessment and audit assessment to my brother Bob Takusi, and then now comes the security posture testing. This is a combination of the security scanning and the risk assessment that my brother Bob will talk about it. That they make sure that they run now another security posture assessment, and to make sure everything runs perfectly before they approve that check box. That okay, the next spring now we can start with the second phase, and this go over and over and over until we get to the last phase that has to be rolled out, and they cannot just roll it out like that without checking, without the security check in a non-production environment. They have to check it there, run it there, maybe for 1 day or 2 days to make sure that all those checks. My brother Bob will come into that to explain that audit, the security audit and the risk assessment on that. He is going to explain that also. Then we'll come now. We do understand that we have artificial intelligence. That's for me, that's the best thing that has happened in the technology company, and I'm proud to be that. I'm proud to be a founder to a company in the tech world that AI. They are the first people to use all the AI, the futures in our products that keep us at the top. Because most of the products that are out there, we do know they don't have AI from scratch. We do have AI from scratch, so we can hit our chest and we have to be proud. The CEO said that we should be proud of ourselves and congratulate ourselves. Now the AI part, the AI machine learning algorithms incorporate new vulnerability discoveries. Does that continues improving and exploiting that threat detection capability? That one is powerful. We do know that. That AI comes with its own security. You know, AI comes with its own security. So for us to do security check, we have to use AI also to make sure that we run that automated security check continuously to make sure that that phase of that phase also is good and ready to go. AI also enables that they don't consume too much time. Once the algorithms they've perfected themselves, we don't use too much time to do the security checking. But me, for one, like I'll say, I always want to do manual check. But when you do the manual security check, you have control that you can easily dictate a few things. Though it consumes too much time, but AI help that we should not consume too much time. AI help that we should not consume too much time. But from the beginning, I think we should do both. Why the AI algorithms, they are setting themselves, studying the whole environment to make sure that, hey, this is going to be a perfect one. Now come the manual penetration testing. It goes through 5 It goes through 5 phases. The 5 phases that it goes through, and they do the pen test, which is also manual. Like I just said, that I prefer the manual pen test because they hack the system, they secure hack the system from the networking to the application to the WAF, which is web application, the Wi-Fi. I mean the firewalls. I'm sorry, the firewalls. They also have to check. Security check has to go through all of them, from the networking, the networking, the software application, and the WAF, which is the web application, firewalls. They also have to check everything. The security check has to go through, so that we should make sure that our system, before they roll it out, we've gone through all those checks. And the guys in Hyderabad, let me say it again, they've done a wonderful job with the CEO, with our CEO, for them to go through all this, and AI and integration and automation. And they've used less than 4 years to come out with the amount of products that we do have now. Is this is something that has never been done. We know one product is out there, they use more than 4 years, and it's still not perfect, it's still not good, you know. So we are in a very better place, a very good place, that our CEO is not only an IT person, he is IT, he is a marketer, and he is everything, and his eyes are on the security, and his eyes are on every phase of this product as they're moving through their various the various process. I will leave it there, Antilene. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was brief, but also very clear information. Thank you very much. Next, we go on to Vincent Ete, who is going to be speaking on the topic of data migration.
Hi, thank you, Antilene. And then thank you for wonderful presentation by my brother Collins and my brother Oliver. And thanks also my brother Bob to be here. We thanks also all the participants. Without forget, thanks to Marcian, Sylvie, Janita, Abraham, Mama Grace. Thanks for everyone. So I would like to start this data migration. So first of all, the first question I will ask for the data migration is to ask, what is a data migration? So the data migration is a process. It's a process of migrating from one system to another system, so known as a data migration. So this is how the data migration works. But some people may say, oh, it's very easy. It's easy. You take like one pen and then you move it to another area. No, it's not like that. We need so many things happen during the data migration. We need to do so many things before we start the process. We cannot move it like I take my pen here and then I put it to another desk. No. It's different scenario, different thing we need happen, and different thing happen in the background before we do the data migration. So the data migration, we have a different type of data migration. We have a storage migration, we have a database migration, application migration. We have also a business process migration and a data center migration. So in here, I think this week, I know most people hear about our CEO talk about moving our data from AWS cloud to our own data center. So this is a process of moving the data. So that migration from one area to another, we need to carry on so many steps before we can get there. So first of all, I will try to explain to people what is a data center, because data center, we mentioned about data center many times, but most people, they don't get it. The data center is where we keep our business critical, like application and data. So a data center is a real world. It's not a virtual. It's a physical location where we put all IT equipment or IT technologies in a room. So it's like everything in IT we use it, we put in one room. So this is what they call it a data center, because everything in IT, the equipment, it could be cable, it could be the data, even email storage, application, everything's in there. So this is what the whole thing, we call it a data center. So to do the migration from the data center, the first thing we need to think about, identify the data format, the location, and also the sensitivity. So this is thing we need to carry on before we start the data migration. We need to identify where we are migrating. We need also to find out what are the format currently in, and also where it lives, and also what format it should be in the post-migration. So during the pre-planning process, we may spot potential risk. So we need to find out this risk before we start the migration, because the pre-planning step can save you making like critical error during the actual progress plan. So this step, we use it to make sure that we can find out all the risk, all the potential issues before we start the planning process, so that we can save us time and time and money also before we start it. So the second step we need to move in, we need to move on also the planning for the size and the scope of the project. So we need to also find out the size of the project, define the scope of the data migration plan. So plan out the resources we need to use during the planning, and also put in place a realistic budget so that we can work according to the plan. So also we have to conduct a flexible time, like the time frame we use it to conduct the migration, whether we need a weekend or maybe evening. So we need to think planning all this time before we start the migration. So if the time scope, so then we can do it, or maybe we can do it normal business hours. We can have to think also of a downtime, the downtime we needed to execute the business plan. So we need also to think about trying to do something and then avoid interrupting the business. So all this we need to put in a plan. This is part of the planning before we can start maybe this. And then once we have put in all this in plan, whether it could be maybe the migration can take place after hours or after a weekend, or avoid interrupting the business, we have also to communicate the business to stakeholders, all the customers, about the timelines and also the potential downtime. If we have like last time we did our migration, we say we have downtime between 2 and 3. So this will be a downtime. The customer cannot go into the website. So all this need to be planned, and then communicate out to the people, our customers, stakeholders. All people should be aware of that. And then once this is done, we go to the backup. So the backup is also one of the important steps, because we need to take the backup before we start the migration plan. So once we have a proper backup put in place, if anything happens, because it's a system, is IT, anything can happen. We could have an error in the system. We could have maybe some incomplete system, missing files, missing application. So this is the reason why we need a backup that before we start everything. So when anything happens, we can have it. Or maybe we can also back up the system to the cloud. So once the application or our backup is in the cloud, also is another safest way to starting the migration plan. So, and then once this is done after the backup, we need also to assess the staff ability and also the tools we need to use for the migration. So we check the staff, if our staff have the required skill to do the job, or they need more help from outside third company to come in to support for the migration. And then also, once this one is defined, we need also to find out the migration tool in place. Do we have the right tool to do the job? And then if we need different tools, all the tools we need to do it, we make sure that we get those tools, we get all this we need, and then we can starting the execution of the project. Once we assess everything, we can start the execution. So that to start the execution of the project, we need to make sure and ensure that all the staff will be involved for the execution. They have the right permission to allow the successful data migration, also to extract all the data migrating to the target from the switch system. So all this need to be taken in place. So we have to make sure that we have everything. And also part of the migration execution, we also do the monitor. So we monitor the system so that during the process, we can identify or resolve any problem that arise. So during the process, this is something we need to have a close eyes to make sure that everything works smoothly as we expected. So once the migration is executed, always we have two results. We could have a failed migration, and then if the migration failed, we should not panic. We can still roll back, and then we can get the system back to the way it used before we start the migration. So we don't have to panic. Everything could be done smoothly as the way we start the project, roll it back, and then we sort it. But only thing when it fails is waste of time and resources. That's the bad thing. But in good situation, when you have a successful result, it's good. And then what we need to do the testing of the final system. So we go back to check that if everything is done. We check also the connectivity for the social system, and then the destination system. We check all the network connectivity, everything works perfect, everything is fine. We verify all the target system. And then the goal of the migration is to make sure that everything is correct, secure, and also in a proper location. So this is what we need to do. So once we get that, we get to my brother Collins, and then we say, okay, we need to test the system. So when it comes to testing, no one can beat my brother Collins. So we go back to Brother Collins testing. So we need the unit testing, we need system testing, volume testing, web testing, and then also we do the batch application testing. So if someone want to get more about testing, want to understand more, you go to refer to my brother Collins. This is his area. So no one can beat him in this area of testing. So this testing is a very important part of the migration, because before we start the migration, we do the testing. So once we finish the migration, we carry out another testing to make sure that the system is working as expected before we start the migration. So this is why we say the testing is very important part of the data migration. And then once we finish that, everything we are happy with the testing, successful testing, we follow up, and then the maintenance of the data migration. So we keep going on the maintenance put in place, like the backup, the system vulnerability, all the system put in place before we start the data. We make sure that everything is working. We check all the software system, all the application, all the database, if everything is working fine. So in that case, we start all the checking also. If anything has failed, again, you don't have to panic. If any file or database or any application, you don't have to panic. We have a backup in place. We can use the backup to restore the system and then make sure that the system works as the way we're expecting, or work before we start in the migration plan. So this is exactly what we need to do about the data migration. So thank you, all of us, and then I'll leave it to Antolin.
Oh my, Vincent. Data migration isn't as simple as I thought. I thought it was like clicking a button and voila, the data migration happens. So luckily I have the OTIC pros to advise me that this is not the case. It is a very complex, involved process. So thank you so much for educating me, so I know better now. Next, we have Bob Takusi, and his topic is compliance and security audit. Go ahead, Bob.
All right. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Bel Air, Maryland. It's afternoon here in Bel Air. It's a beautiful day. I want to give a shout out to my sisters. I see them, my beautiful sisters, Marcienne and Sylvie. Good to see you. My fellow brothers, Oliver, Collins, Vincent. And I also like to say hello to Sister Grace. Sister Grace, good to see you. Abraham, good to see you. Mamadou Jallo, good to see you. And I also want to say hello to my sister, Maria Aquino. Good to see you. And I want to also acknowledge Miss Kerry Young. Thank you for your contribution yesterday. We look forward to working with you. Good to see you. So for those of us who are plugged in, who are really plugged in, who are following up what is going on with OnPassive for a while, I think it is a fair statement to say, and rightfully so, that upon the launching of OnPassive is going to be the greatest, if not the greatest company that has ever existed, that has ever come forth to the world. And I say so with certainty, based on the impact that she will have, not only to her founders or her customers, but to the world at large. We know that we are coming to the world with multiple products. We're in several countries, more than 200 countries worldwide. We have all these products. We're going to be serving the entire world. We're going to be delivering our services. We're going to be receiving payment for our services. So we're going to collect personal information from people around the world. And we know in all these countries, there are rules and regulations, there are laws, there are compliance regulations that as OnPassive as a company, she will have to adhere to these rules and regulations around the world. We also know that our founder, Mr. Ash Mufara, is a very, very, very highly ethical man. So we are building OnPassive very mindful that countries around the world have rules that we as OnPassive have to comply with. So I can remember that Mr. Ash about a year ago told us that there are, I believe there are two of the biggest law firms in the United States. When it comes to intellectual property and compliance, I believe one is in New York and there's another one in Washington, DC, he said, that are representing us. In DC, of course, I live in the Washington, DC area. We know K Street, that's where you have those hierarchies with those high-powered areas. So when he talked about it, that's what my mind went to. In India, I believe the biggest and the best law firm is also representing OnPassive to make sure we adhere to the rules and regulations around the world. We also have associate lawyers and firms around the world, 200 plus countries, making sure that OnPassive is compliant. That is a very, 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 very good thing for us as we begin our march towards exposing ourselves to the world. But we know that a lot of companies that are online right now, a lot of businesses have issues. They face certain issues online: money laundering, cybercrime, corruption, trafficking. These are some of the illegal activities that go online and could actually render some companies or create problems for some companies. You know, when you are not fully adhering to rules and laws and building your systems to make sure that these laws are integrated as part of your system as you build them, you can run into problems and you can run into fines and you can run into reputational harm, reputational damage. When a system as complex as OnPassive is being used for trafficking, for instance, or it's being used for corruption and crime and things like that. But having the CEO that we have, who is a very, 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 very ethical man, he wants to correct the corruption, he wants to do right. OnPassive is not only is for the everyday human being, it's a system that is coming in with a total internet solution for everyone to have something to use within our ecosystem. Everyone, it's a total internet solution. So he makes sure that we are integrating anti-money laundering within our system. He told us that overtly, we heard. That is what OnPassive is. So when it comes to the money laundering and the cybercrime and all these things, and then my brother Oliver always insists on telling us the importance and the inherent detective capability of artificial intelligence is working for us, is on our favor. So with that, we will be able to repel this illegal activity that is online that could impact us. We are going to be able to take care of that problem. The money laundering issues, the cyber crimes. In fact, OnPassive is bad news to scammers. I've said this before. Bad news to scammers. The system is going to fish you out. They'll fish you out, target your IP address, they pick up your IP address, they blacklist you. You'll never be able to come into our ecosystem. We are collecting payments from all over the world, from people. Credit card payments, you know, crypto, whatever means that people are going to be paying for their services that we render to them. So we must have a system that protects their personal information. We are going to be collecting credit card information. your credit card number, your name, your address, your this. So countries around the world, they have privacy laws that we must comply with when we are collecting personal data. There's a framework called Payment Card PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard Compliance. You know, where banks and merchants and companies that processing credit card, they came together and then they formed a council and they created I think it was in 2006, they created setting about 10 security controls that you must have if your system is collecting credit card information, that you must have those controls. So we are building, as we are testing our system, as we're talking about testing, we are building our systems. We are testing the system to make sure we meet this PCI DSS compliance, because at some point they're going to come and do an audit. And once that audit is done, then they'll give us an attestation, something they call attestation of compliance. That helps us also for our, we talked about digital trust a while ago, for customers to, Colin Stock told us here about confidence. Customers to have confidence in our system, that as they're coming in, they're using our system, they're buying services, products and services from us, we're collecting their personal information, their credit card data, it is being protected. That is what this does for us. And as we're testing our system, we're making sure these controls that are required in this Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard are being complied with. There's also another standard, another certification called the SOC report, System Organization Controls. It also has a name called SSAE 18, you know, where to assist us to also garner this digital trust that we sought for, because the primary objective of every IT industry company is to obtain digital trust. To get that, we could call in one of the big four accounting firms, like PricewaterhouseCoopers or KPMG or Ernst & Young, you name, there are so many of them. And they can come and audit our system, a thorough IT audit from processes top to bottom, and then they'll give us that attestation as well to help us with our digital trust. There's also something called ISO, for a company like OnPassive, which is a multinational corporation, there's ISO 27000 and 27001. It's also another certification that a third party can give for us to get that trust. So we test our system to make sure we are adhering or will adhere to these compliance regulations. Those of us who are here in North America, I'm sure there's some other regulations around the world. There's something called HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. We know there are two titles there. Most people don't know. The second title talks about protecting the health information of the customers, of the patient, PHI, protected health information. So the HIPAA has actually stipulated some controls too that must be in place. So as we are testing, we are making sure that we adhere to those standards. OnPassive is going to be used at, I don't know which hospital is not going to use OnPassive products. Her own staff, for instance, or even our OChat. OChat is a product that companies are going to use to integrate in their system, you know. So OChat also collects information from customers. So we must make sure that as they're collecting this personal protected health information, our system has that capability, those controls to protect them. So we are testing in each phase that we test this provision to make sure that they are not broken, that they are still intact as we move along. And then, of course, we have privacy regulations. In Europe, my friends in Europe, Grace is in Germany, Collins and Vincent and all our European friends, there's something called GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. Privacy is very, very, very important in Europe. My friends here will tell you, privacy. Even the personal email address of Grace, according to GDPR, is considered personal data. So any system like ours on passive, it doesn't matter where you are. Yes, we are registered in Florida, in Delaware, in the United States. We are in India. So long as you are collecting European information, you must adhere to the general data protection regulation standards. There are severe, I think it's like 10%. They will charge you if you violate this law. They will charge you 10% of your gross revenue for the year. Melon Bank, I think Facebook and a few companies have faced these penalties. I mean, you're talking millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. So we are building our system mindful of these regulations, and we are testing the system as we move along on each phase. In the United States, we have something called CCPA, California Consumer Protection Act. It's in California. In New York, there's something called New York State Privacy. There's in most states in Canada, there are privacy rules, just like GDPR. In South America, there's something called Latin America regulation. There are regulations all around the world protecting privacy information. So as we are building and we are moving along, we are testing on each phase. We are making sure that these controls continue to stay in place and they are effective as we go along. The next thing I'll talk about, as my brothers have alluded, is security audit. Security audit is very broad. I'm a security analyst. It's a very broad discipline. It's a broad field. But I will limit our discussion to just to the development activities for this product as we're speaking, to make it brief, not to confuse anyone. And as like Oliver said, we don't have to understand anything. These are just informational stories we are telling you, just so we will understand the magnitude of OnPassive and appreciate the time that it has taken. Less time, because that's one of the stories that will be told when OnPassive launches, is how fast, the less time that it was taking. That is a story that historians, IT historians are going to write about OnPassive, because for us, those of us who are here, we think it's a miracle for us to be at this point where we are actually talking about testing and the final rollout. So when we talk about security audit on each phase, remember now, from what Mr. Collins said to what Vincent said, we are doing our testing in each phase. That's the policy. That is what is required of us to do, is the policy. But as my brother Oliver always says, he has said this about more than 100 times, we always trust, but we verify. So what the security audit does now is, we go back now and we look at everything that they've said that they're doing. Are they really doing what they are doing? So we go back and we audit, we do semi-risk assessment on each phase. So we make sure, for instance, this version of code, is it compatible? Is the system security, application security still intact? When you move the code, when you changed it, you upgraded it, that last sprint, did we break anything? So we go in now, we verify that they are adhering to that, following the process. Collins talked about testing the code, static and dynamic code analysis. Yes, are they really doing it? Show me proof, trust, be verify. Okay, show me how you did it. Show me the meeting that you held, that you had this code review. Because that is static code analysis, right? The developer comes with their code that they've written, they check, you sit with your peers, you do a peer-to-peer review. And in those cases, sometimes they can identify, oh, you are doing this wrong, the security gap here. So that's how they do it. You look at it. So I want to see that review. That's how we do the audit. You are conducting, okay, after you do that, you do your dynamic analysis. After you deploy your code, you check out the code, you make the changes. Do you run your scan to make sure that there are no vulnerability flaws? Show me the result of the scan. So that is how we do it. We run that assessment on each time that there is a change. We also do access control, very critical. We audit, we check, because you must have the person who is checking out that code, the person who is working on that component, that particular functionality, must be the one that is only the one that is authorized to be able to have access to that code, to check it out, make changes and check it back in. So we make sure that the access is actually really restricted. I will ask Vincent to show me the line, give me a screenshot of the console where the rules are. So that's how we do the audit. And then my brother Oliver talks a lot about penetration testing, automated manner. Oliver was very detailed in his explanation. Do you do it? Do you do this vulnerability scan? Do you do the penetration testing? Where is your result? Show me. Show me. When you get this result, when you run these tests, how do you categorize the flaws, the defects that we find? Do you categorize them into low, medium, high? If you do, show me. Let me see. Okay, what do you do? How fast does it take? What is the turnover to fix this before the next bill, before the next sprint, so that everything has been taken care of? So we audit that. You do security audit to make sure they are actually, you trust but verify. You verifying what they are doing. OnPassive is we are building multiple applications, and then we are integrating them. So I want to see the deployment integration code, how it is done. Test it, show me. Let's make sure that it is actually integrating all components, all these various products that need to be integrated together. We want to see. So trust but verify. Is it automated? How does the organization actually automate the process? How is it done? Show me. So I want to see. And then, of course, lastly, we have change management. You know, the change management process, is it documented, and does it really define what has to be done? The testing process that it takes. So all this is how we actually do an audit, and we do this for each phase. Each time that Collins' team, they give a go ahead for the last sprint, this is good, the MVP, move to this next phase. We have to run through that to make sure that to actually verify all this in effect helps us at the end of the day, because testing is the most critical aspect of a system development. Testing. Someone like Collins, who is here, who is a QA manager, he's actually involved in the process from the beginning, from when they sit on the table to design the system, decide the requirements. He's actually in that process, also coming up with his strategy, his test cases, his test plans, manual, automated, as he told us, all throughout, because he has to understand the in-depth functionality to come up with this thing. And then we test the system so that when he gives that check that it is good to go, the customers will now want the product, will like the product, our end result. Remember, we have one bullet. OnPassive does have one bullet, like he said. We're going to have to take some customers. Companies are going to flock to OnPassive. Businesses with their employees. So once we roll out, we have one shot. We cannot fail, because if we fail, we'll lose digital trust. I'll send it back to you, Antilin. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bob Takusi. That was excellent. Now we're going to take it to our panelists. Hello, panelists. I hope you enjoyed the presentation today. We do have a few minutes now to have a question and answer session. So if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, raise your hand electronically and you can say your piece. Don't be shy. We prefer your questions be related to the topic at hand, which is testing. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the topic? I would like to allow Kiri Young just to say hi to us. Wanted to introduce the community to, I'm sorry, I said her name wrong. Kari, her name is Kari Young. And I want to let you know that she has an MBA in technology management, and she has a background in networking and IT project management. And we're glad to have met her. We just met her last night on the Friday Night Live webinar, and we were so happy to have met her. She will be contributing to our webinar in the future, but I just wanted you to say hello, Kyrie, to the community. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, hello, hello. Good, great, and awesome day to everybody. Oh my goodness. The OTech pros, I want to say thank you. I felt like I was at work in one of the board meetings dealing with change management, vulnerability management, and IT security, IT security. So I was over here just smiling. I realized this is talking about testing. I would like to give maybe just 1 minute and how I try to explain testing the system life cycle with the human life cycle. Right now that Mr. Ashmufar was impregnated with a wonderful idea, which is called the data center. The data center has so many phases to go through, just like a woman has so many months and phases to go through. And testing is one of the most important phases, as Mr. Bob said. But when a mother is pregnant, she goes through all of these various testing phases to make sure that her child is what? Healthy and strong. With this data center, Mr. Ashmufar wants a healthy, strong, and robust data center that can conquer so many. So he has IT security professionals, ethical hackers, system engineers, as well as operation management engineers to go through and keep punching and punching and punching away to try to break it. But when they are not successful, and that's called penetration management, and when they're not successful, then he can go on to the next phase and starting to birth this baby, which is the data center. But before all of that can be done, the testing is mandatory. No parent wants to have a premature baby. Not at all. And Mr. Ashmufar doesn't want to have a premature data center. If so, then what will happen? What will happen is once the data center is live and is born, we must go through all of these testings, and that's never healthy with a healthy security posture. So if a mother births the baby premature, she already knows that it's going to be a long haul and stressful for the baby. And parents do not want that. So as Mr. Ashmufar said, I'd rather carry it a little longer until the baby is born successfully and robust. So I hope for the everyday layperson that is not tech savvy can understand it that way. And no parent wants to have a premature baby. We rather just keep going and going and going until the baby is ready to be born, nice and healthy. I want to say thank you all for everything. You have a wonderful and blessed day.
Thank you, Kari. I like the metaphor of the baby. It's very clear to the layperson. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having your contribution as an ongoing thing with OTech Pros. Thank you again. Abraham Paosi, come on down and ask your question. Good to see you here, Abraham.
Good to see you also, Lynn. Thank you very much to you and all my Tech Pro brothers. They are our specialists. I don't have that capacity to congratulate them because, for me to congratulate them, I need to know better than them and then test them and understand that they have been up to the task. Can I afford that? I cannot. So I will not congratulate them. I would rather express my gratitude to all of them. To all of them. I've learned a lot, but what I have learned, Lynn, is in no way related to technology. What have I learned? That in this family, 4 brothers and a sister can come together, coordinate, share the different tasks, make a presentation that is of very high standard. This is a model. And I think that we can, from this model, we can copy and then apply it in I would say, other fields or other domains. It can be development, it can be project management, because we know we're not only here to make money, but we're here to develop our communities. I think that this model, something like this, can be shaped, framed, and then maybe presented, so that when we go back to our communities with our apples, we would have learned a way of working together as a team. Because at the end of the day, it's not who has made it, who has made the greatest contribution, who has made the richest contribution, who is the most brilliant, who has made the most, the most donation. No. But at the end of the day, what are we taking out? Something rich, something of value. So thank you very much for the originality of this framework, and congratulations once again to all our brothers. Thank you very much, Lynn.
Thank you, Ibrahim. That was beautifully expressed, and we appreciate your gratitude and your acknowledgement. It means a lot to all of us. Thank you so much. Do we have any more? Oh, I see. We've got Sylvie Wanji, who would like to say a few words. Welcome, Sylvie.
Wow. This is a mind-blowing. Lynn, you and the Tech Pro and Maddie, you are something. I would like to take this moment to say thank you, to express my gratitude to all of you. OnPassive has everything. Thank you, Tech Pro, for enlightening us. Today, I can talk about technology. I am no longer doing the basic or the introduction to technology. Thank you for that. Throughout the presentation, I was hearing testing, security, migration, and what I noticed is, what caught my mind is testing. Our Tech Pro talk about automation testing and manual testing. That is amazing. Look at me explaining that, understanding that. I can say thank you to you guys. So now I understand what our CEO and the tech team in Hyderabad and all over the world working for the sake of our, wealth, our future wealth. I understand what they're going through, working hard. So now, as a founder, since all of you have a task, what is our role? What is you as professional or our CEO expect from the founders? What can we do as founder? What is our part to maintain the sustainability of the company? What can we do also in this task? I would like to know our contribution, so I do my part. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Sylvie. Lovely way of expressing yourself. I love that. So anybody want to reply to that? Before we commence, I want to like to say that it is 1:41 p.m. Eastern. We will need to be moving on in 4 minutes. So we will have Marciana as our last questioner. And Bob, if you can respond in a very brief manner. Thank you.
Very briefly, thank you, Auntie Sylvie. I think this question was posed to our CEO directly, maybe a couple of weeks ago. And what he said was something to the effect of, we should enjoy ourselves, show gratitude, appreciate, appreciate the company, show love and compassion, and prepare yourself. For this is from me, just prepare yourself. Remember, the system is automated. Everything is all done for you. Understand how the system works, understand the product for your own for yourself, because you're going to be talking to people. You're going to be a proud founder who wants to let people know what is going on, understand the back office. But remember, it is all done, 100% automated, all done for you. Now, go forth with this wealth that you're getting and impact lives. If you want to do something for the founder, go and impact lives. Pay it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcian will be our last person to speak today. If you could express yourself in 1 minute. Marcian, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Auntie Lynn. And thank you to our OPROTEC. This is so amazing. I really did not have any question. I just want to let them know that we appreciate them. We appreciate all the hard work that they've been doing. I particularly, they start teaching me about all of this 2 years ago since I joined on Passive. I have a privilege to have the one-on-one with Bob and Vince and Oliver, and I really appreciate. So I'm glad that they're taking the knowledge now with Auntie Lynn out to the world. And I'm really, really, really happy. I'm a proud founder, as you all know. I can go out there and walk with my head very high and tall, because I know we are in the greatest place and the world will never be the same for me and for all the founders. So if you are a guest in Kenya, if you are a guest around the world and you are listening to us, don't wait, because we have just 11 days left, maybe 10 days in another part of the world. Get in, it's $97 and you will never regret it. That will be the best $97, making it for your lifetime. This is an opportunity, don't miss it. Forever, you will be fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcian. That was lovely as well. All right, I think we're going to wrap up now. It's 1:44 p.m. I want to thank you all for being here. We had great attendance. I see we currently have 156 participants. Every week we're getting more and more, and we have a lot of regulars. So we want to thank you and appreciate you for your loyalty. It really matters to us. And so on behalf of the OTEC Pros, thank you very much. Remember, this webinar is every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. It is preceded by the OTEC Pros webinar, which happens at 11 a.m. Eastern. So why not come to both? Start at 11 with OTEC Pros and move right on to Kenya, and you'll hear the topic twice. And that means you're going to learn even more. I also want to encourage you to join the OTEC Pros YouTube channel. Please subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when new videos are posted. The link to OTEC Pros YouTube channel is in the chat. I posted it right there, but you can do a search on YouTube as well. So you'll get all the techie webinars all in one place when you subscribe. Thank you again to everyone for being here. Gladys Naboro is usually here. She's on the road for a few weeks, but she will drop in if she has internet, she'll be dropping in. So today she didn't have that ability, but we know she's doing fine. She's doing just great, but she's going to be traveling for a few weeks. Thank you again to everyone, and we'll see you next Saturday at the same time. Aloha to everyone. I'm going to unmute everybody so that you can say bye-bye to one another. Go ahead and say bye-bye.
Aloha.
Bye from
everyone.
Friends Houston.
Bye.
Bye from
Thank you all so
Aloha.
much. Bye-bye. Happy
Great.
weekend, guys. Remain safe.
Bye.
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 God bless you all.
Bye from
Bye-bye.
Thank
Connecticut.
you very much.
Remain
Bye,
safe.
Alan. Bye, Abraham.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Bye,
Thank you.
Momodu. Happy
Have a
weekend.
wonderful day.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Grace.
Bye, sweetie.
Love from Houston, Texas.